Hey, I'm Matt, and I just saw Batman vs. Superman, so I'm going to give you a quick review, and before I get into spoilers, here's my recommendation for people who don't want me to ruin the movie for them yet. I found the movie average to average minus. Dull, overwrought, long periods of boringness. There's some good things about it. A couple of the themes sort of worked. Everything else that I would want to tell you about it will require spoilers, so I'm going to give you notice right now that I'm going to spoil everything in 5, 4, 3, 2. Here's what I liked about the show. The action was entertaining. Things blew up and got smashed, and if you're into seeing that, this is a good summer blockbuster style movie. I have no idea how these humans can stand being thrown through concrete left and right. You completely lose all sense of what actually hurts the characters or what doesn't, but if you're Paul Krugman, this is an economic dream for you because the destruction will stimulate the economy. A second thing I was surprised to find that I liked about this show was the character of Superman himself. I came into the show rooting for Batman, I guess since we're supposed to pick somebody and root for them. Superman always seems distant and unrelatable to me, but my friend Adam finds him really interesting, and he has been trying to convince me of late that I should like Superman more, and he makes good points about Superman's great power and the tension that causes with his love for this world and the people of it, and what a difficulty it must be for him to interact with such a frail world with all that power. It's a pretty good point. So maybe I had my antenna out for that a little more this time around, but I did feel more sympathy toward him as a character. And I especially like the sequence where he interacts in a vision with his dead Earth dad, played by Kevin Costner. And Kevin Costner is helping him sort out what it is to do good in a world that's very compromising toward people who are trying to do good. And I really like the touch that added to understanding Superman's character. He's not an idiot. He knows that he's done damage, and he knows that he has the potential to do more damage. But I mean, what's the alternative? Just shut it down and quit trying to do good? I think I flipped my loyalties at that moment in the film from Batman to Superman because I can relate to that. I don't have any powers, but I want to do good. I want to wear white, and I might not be the smartest guy, but I'm smart enough to know that the world does have a compromising effect on our efforts to do good, and that it feels like the world, especially right now, really wants to muddy the waters so greatly that nothing is good and nothing is bad, and it's all just this equal, convoluted, moral, ethical mess. I don't buy that. I still think there are things that are redemptive and good, and I want to be on the side of that, even if I can't always figure it out. I resonate with Superman more coming out of this film than I have in the past, and I liked that he took me there as a character. Hey, quick time out. I was sitting in my editing chair editing, and my wife overheard what I just said about Superman and me liking him more than I normally do, and she had a thought. So, Camilla, go.
It's funny because I hadn't really thought about it, but I completely agree. I'm normally a big Batman fan. He's funny, he's charismatic, and just entertaining in general. And in this movie, I didn't care about him at all, and found myself rooting for Superman at the end of the movie to beat Batman, even though going into the movie, I told my kids I was completely rooting for Batman. That's all.
That was helpful. Third thing that I liked about the movie, and this is going to seem weird based on what I just said, is that they then went on to kill Superman. The problem with Superman, storytelling-wise, is that he has unbelievable power. Can fly through stuff and shoot lasers. It just removes all storytelling jeopardy and tension for me. And any story that involves a hero that powerful, it just has to go nuclear and apocalyptic. And that's okay from time to time, but I just don't want movie after movie that is Roland Emmerich level stakes. I need things that are smaller and have some nuance and some relatability to the tensions that make the plot go. And so by killing Superman, now they can put together a Justice League of people who are more limited, where really everybody on the team represents one aspect of what Superman was. And maybe with him out of the picture for a while, this DC universe can pull itself together and be more fun and make more sense. Let's flip it around and get into the stuff that I didn't like. Buckle up, this is going to take a minute. First thing I didn't like. It was boring way too often. My wife, who just got done marathoning Daredevil season 2 with me and who likes superhero stuff, was out about 15 minutes in. She's a good sport. She didn't stomp out or anything, but it was not necessarily a magical date movie. Probably should have known that going in. Additionally, when the soundtrack goes quiet right after Superman dies, there was this maybe 7-year-old girl sitting a couple rows down who started to ask a question to her mom, and the question that everyone was expecting was, "Mommy, is he dead?" But instead she asked, "Is it over?" And everybody started laughing at the emotional climax of the film. That means it's not working. I'm sure there are people who had a blast with this movie, but for me and my wife and the theater where I saw it, the vibe was much more obligatory and dull. The second thing I didn't like is how overwrought the whole thing was. It just felt heavy-handed and self-important, and include all the other hyphenated words there that you want. There was a kids movie I saw maybe a couple years ago with this little sloth that would go bum 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 every time something important happened, and it was supposed to be funny. Didn't work, but it was supposed to be. Here, they weren't even trying to make it funny. They actually employed the bum 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 sound at like 5 different junctures where important stuff happened on screen. You think we're idiots and we can't tell that something important just happened? Come on. A third thing I didn't like was the plot. I found it bad and dumb. If you really break this thing down, it's a rehash of 2 movies we already saw, and then it goes into a fight that is completely unnecessary between people who shouldn't be fighting, and then some bad guy we didn't see coming at all proves to be the big bad guy for the whole thing, and then somebody dies, and then everybody's sad. It's just a flat, let's get these characters on screen and have them fight. Which gets me to, well, the main fight of the whole thing, which is supposed to be Batman versus Superman, which in itself from the beginning has felt like a clickbait title. Batman and Superman got in a fight. You won't believe what happens next. Fine, here's my $9. I'll click and see what happened next. What happened next was nothing. The fight made no sense. It was like one of those wacky 90s misunderstanding movies where if 2 parties just got on the screen at the same time and had a basic civilized conversation, all the tension of the movie would be relieved and everything would work out for everyone. But these guys get irrational over nothing at opposite moments in the film, and so they have to break a bunch of stuff and fight each other and essentially expose all of the world to a great danger that it never needed to be exposed to. The only problem in this movie was that Batman and Superman were incapable of adult conversation. No, I take that back. There's one other thing that also caused problems in this movie, and that was Batman and Superman standing around and doing nothing indecisively at the worst possible time. I'm Superman, and you're a big problem, and I am gonna stop you. And I'm just gonna ignore that creepy alien countdown voice in the background that's probably not counting down to something horribly nefarious. So I'll just let that count down while we talk about your evil plans and how you're going to get, what? A giant monster? It drives me crazy when heroes we're supposed to admire can't do basic social math and figure out what's going on right in front of their faces. Suggestion: punch the giant bag of things that's glowing and pulsating in the background that the countdown is happening with, and then just round up skinny little Mark Zuckerberg and throw him in jail. I just saved planet Earth. Another thing I did not like about this show was the gloomy, dark tone. Now, I don't have a problem with that in principle. Daredevil was dark and brooding, and it worked. But this, for some reason, whiffed. In the trailer, when Batman asks Superman, "Do you bleed?" I thought, man, if that's your best stuff, and that's how you're trying to sell the movie, then I'm not optimistic about this show. And the line, if you can believe it, is even worse when it actually happens in the context of the film. I think they would have done better if they'd given it a little bit more of that Marvel Cinematic Universe lightness, some joy, some humor, something to make it fun and relatable somewhere along the line. But that was totally missing. My last and biggest gripe with this show, though, is the themes. The theme of this movie is all the themes ever that anybody ever wanted to theme about. God, government, morality, the media, lying, the corruption of civilization, division between people, civil liberties versus security. In the Marvel universe, every one of those themes gets its own movie. It's not all crammed into one thing recklessly. And the God theme is the worst of all. It's not focused or targeted. So it's just like this, let's sling a whole bunch of stuff that sounds smart against the wall, cram it in there with shoehorned lines that characters would never say, and hope that somebody later finds something smart in there. When you watch a show like, hey, here we go again, Daredevil, the main character works through like 1 or maybe 2 big questions, and you as a viewer work through those questions by commiserating with, suffering with, having optimism with that character. You see the question through his or her eyes. And you get to the end and you feel like, oh, I've wrestled through some stuff here. This was good. But a show like this almost feels more like allegory. Like Superman represents Jesus and belief in the supernatural. And Batman represents a reasoned stance to prevent harm by doing harm. And Wonder Woman represents a lady who, for no reason whatsoever, goes through some files on a computer at a time in the movie when it makes no sense. Okay, ignore her. But the imagery is so thick that it feels more like a sermon about all the subjects ever disguised in a bait and switch movie. And so instead of relating to the characters just represent something to you. So my wife's chief gripe with the movie was I didn't relate to any of the characters. Well, I have a reason to suggest as to why she didn't, because the characters aren't characters, they're symbols, so that the screenwriters and director can play out this allegory and make their various points that never seem to hit. You want to make a point with storytelling? Have a great character who does things that that rich, complex character would do when they interact with a rich, complex world and rich, complex other characters. The tension will happen, the questions will arise. Again, the Jesus imagery was no exception. It was really thick. Morpheus has a line about people falling out of love with the man in the sky, subtle. And then even when Superman dies at the end and is cradled by Lois Lane, I mean, Zack Snyder hangs on that shot forever. It's a Pieta. That's what he's trying to communicate. You know, Pieta is that Renaissance style of painting or sculpture where Mary is holding the dead body of Jesus. Again, not subtle and not effective because, okay, we get it. He's supposed to be Jesus. So what? And the so what part is really what makes a theme work or not work. Just having somebody be a symbol of something doesn't really mean much. Okay, a couple of quick concluding points. First, this show makes me appreciate premium TV all that much more. Great movie quality, 13 episode seasons gives you time to unpack the kind of depth that they wanted to unpack in this movie, but instead crammed into 2.5 hours. Didn't work. They should have cut all that stuff out, made it 90 minutes long, or turned the thing into a TV show and stretched all this story out over 3 seasons. Then it could have been interesting. Premium TV, I'm telling you, it's where it's at. I still think there's a place for movies, but this shift is happening for a reason. Second observation, this DC movie made me appreciate the Marvel Universe more, again, because Marvel knows how to hit the right notes between fun and important, weighty content. Comes back and forth out of that stuff. It works for kids. I can't imagine taking one of my kids to see Batman versus Superman, but you know, my kids have fun with Captain America and stuff. He throws a hilarious shield and it bonks off of people. Ha ha, fall down, go boom. Also, look out, there are drones in the sky and we should probably be more thoughtful about how we police possible future crime. You see, it just works and there's a balance to it. This didn't have that balance and it made me really excited for Civil War. Which, speaking of Marvel and Civil War, brings me to my third point. So we got this Captain America Iron Man fight coming up next month. And whenever there are movies in recent history that are twin movies, that is basically the same show made by 2 different studios released at roughly the same time, it's because they think that their demographic research points to you wanting to see that kind of show. So you need Despicable Me and Megamind at the same time because people back then wanted to rethink the bad guy. You had Dante's Peak and Volcano happen at the same time because the demographic research said that in the late 1990s people wanted to see other people drowning in liquid hot magma. Wyatt Earp, Tombstone, Deep Impact, Armageddon, you get the drill. Twin movies reveal what messages we're sending to Hollywood. And I don't like what these twin movies are communicating. Apparently, we as Americans are giving off the vibe that our favorite thing to do is fight with each other bitterly, even to the point of being willing to shed blood. What the heck is going on? If twin movies are any indication, I think we were in a much better place as a people like 20 years ago when Hollywood was pretty sure that what we most wanted to see was a hypothetical look into the goings-on and shenanigans of insects. I think Captain America Civil War is going to be fun, but in advance, I don't like what that movie says about us either. I realize this is a really weird take home from a movie like Batman versus Superman, but for me, I came away feeling like I want to be committed to what's good, even if it's hard, like Clark Kent's dad. And part of that good, I think right now, for me means not being a part of this trend that Hollywood sees in us toward wanting to destroy our neighbors and engage in unending violence and civil war toward each other. It makes me want to be patient with people. It makes me not want to make the same dumb mistakes that the contrived characters in this movie made. And that's not always easy because, hey, we're doing this on the internet, and the internet's a place where generally we just get together and fight. So I felt a little convicted by it, I felt a little compelled by it, and that's why, there are things to like about the movie for me. It did make me think in a very roundabout, unintended way. On the whole, I'd still give this movie something in the range of the old C-. It's watchable. If you like big things on a screen, go check it out. If you want to be prompted to really think, I don't think the themes that are intentional in the movie are going to work for you. There might be some other things in a roundabout way that you might appreciate. I'm Matt. Hope you liked my review. We'll catch you soon.